Before we talk about falling into Niagara Falls, let's understand exactly what we're dealing with. Niagara Falls isn't just one waterfall. It's actually three different waterfalls located on the border between Ontario, Canada, and New York, United States. The three falls are the American Falls, the Bridal Veil Falls, and the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. But when most people think of Niagara Falls, they're thinking of the Canadian Horseshoe Falls, because it's by far the largest and most impressive of the three. The Canadian Horseshoe Falls is approximately 57 meters tall. That's about the height of an 18-story building. It's also incredibly wide, stretching about 670 meters across. The distinctive horseshoe shape gives the falls its name and creates that iconic curved appearance everyone recognizes. But the height and width are just the beginning. What makes Niagara Falls truly impressive is the sheer volume of water flowing over it. During peak flow in the daytime during tourist season, water rushes over the edge of the Canadian Horseshoe Falls at speeds up to 109 kilometers per hour. That's highway speed, except it's water, not cars. And the volume? Approximately 2.8 million liters of water pour over the edge of the falls every single second. Every second. To put that in perspective, that's enough water to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 1 second. It's an absolutely staggering amount of water in constant motion. Considering its height, its speed, and its raw natural power, it's hard to believe that anyone could survive a trip over Niagara Falls. The combination of the 57-meter drop, the violent impact with the water below, the powerful currents, and the rocks at the base should be instantly fatal. And yet, incredibly, it's been done. Several people have gone over Niagara Falls and lived to tell the tale. Was it skill? Was it luck? How do you survive a fall into Niagara Falls? The first survivor, Annie Edson Taylor. The first person to survive a trip over Niagara Falls was a woman named Annie Edson Taylor. Her story is remarkable and set the stage for all the daredevils who would follow. On October 24th, 1901, on her 63rd birthday, Annie Taylor crawled into an oak and iron barrel she had specially constructed for this purpose. The barrel was padded on the inside with a mattress and had a leather harness to strap herself in. She brought along a small pillow for her head. Annie was a widowed schoolteacher who was struggling financially and hoped that surviving the falls would bring her fame and fortune. She figured the publicity would lead to speaking engagements and endorsement deals that would support her in her retirement years. The barrel was sealed shut with Annie inside, then towed by a small boat to a point upstream from the falls. At the right moment, the barrel was released into the Niagara River current. It floated downstream, picked up speed, and then plunged over the edge of the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. The barrel tumbled through the air, smashed into the churning water at the base of the falls, and was caught in the violent currents and whirlpools below. Eventually, it was pulled to shore and opened. Annie Taylor emerged alive, though badly bruised and shaken. Her only serious injury was a small gash on her head. When asked about the experience later, she famously said, "If it was with my dying breath, I would caution anyone against attempting the feat. I would sooner walk up to the mouth of a cannon knowing it was going to blow me to pieces than make another trip over the falls." Unfortunately for Annie, the stunt didn't bring her the fortune she'd hoped for. She earned very little money from the feat and ended up spending her final years in poverty. But she had accomplished something no one else had. She proved it was possible to survive Niagara Falls. Other barrel riders, skill and luck. Annie Taylor's survival inspired other daredevils to attempt the same feat, though her warnings were clearly not heeded. In 1928, Jean Lussier went over Niagara Falls in a contraption of his own design, a 182-centimeter rubber and steel bowl lined with 32 inner tubes for cushioning. This was a significant improvement over Annie's oak barrel in terms of engineering and safety features. Lussier's bowl was designed to absorb impact and protect him from the violent tumbling he'd experienced going over the falls. When the bowl was recovered after going over, Lussier climbed out essentially unharmed. Unlike Annie Taylor, Lussier actually did manage to capitalize on his fame. He spent the rest of his life selling pieces of the inner tubes as souvenirs to tourists visiting Niagara Falls. Other attempts followed over the years. Some used barrels, some used balls, Some used specially designed capsules. Each daredevil believed they had engineered the perfect survival vessel. But not all the daredevils were as lucky as Taylor and Lucier. In fact, of the 16 people who have intentionally tried to conquer the falls in some kind of protective vessel, just slightly more than half have lived to tell the tale. The others died from the fall, either from the impact itself, from drowning afterward, or from being battered against the rocks. Going over Niagara Falls in a barrel is essentially a 50-50 proposition. Even with engineering and planning, you're basically flipping a coin with your life. Unprotected falls, the miracle survivors. The barrel riders at least had some protection, however minimal. But even more incredibly, some people have survived going over Niagara Falls with no protection at all. To date, only 5 people are known to have survived an unprotected fall down the Canadian Horseshoe Falls. These weren't planned stunts. These were accidents where people somehow, against all odds, survived. The first and youngest of these miracle survivors was a 7-year-old boy named Roger Woodward. His story is particularly remarkable. In 1960, Roger was on a boating trip with his family. Their small boat encountered mechanical problems and began drifting toward the falls faster than they could control. Roger's older sister managed to grab hold of some rocks near the edge and was pulled to safety. But Roger and the adult who was piloting the boat were swept over the edge. The adult died in the fall, but Roger, wearing only a life jacket, somehow survived the 57-meter plunge. He was pulled under by the powerful currents and whirlpools at the base of the falls, tumbled around in the violent water, and emerged into calmer water, downstream where a tourist boat happened to be nearby. Crew members from the boat pulled Roger from the water. He was rushed to the hospital where he was treated for a concussion and various bruises. Remarkably, he spent only 3 days in the hospital and made a full recovery. To this day, Roger Woodward's survival is still referred to as the miracle at Niagara. Experts who have studied the incident can't fully explain how a 7-year-old child survived when so many adults with protective equipment have died. The other 4 people who survived unprotected falls also had remarkable circumstances and incredible luck. Most suffered serious injuries including broken bones, internal injuries and hypothermia, but all survived. Blind luck or skill? What experts say? Most rescue workers and experts at Niagara Falls consider unprotected survival stories to be essentially blind luck. There are simply too many variables and dangers involved for survival to be anything other than random chance. When you go over the falls, you're dealing with multiple simultaneous threats: the 57-meter fall itself, the impact with the water at the bottom, the rocks beneath the surface, the powerful undertows and whirlpools, the extremely cold water temperature, and the ongoing force of millions of liters of water continuously crashing down on the spot where you land. Any one of these factors could kill you. Surviving all of them simultaneously seems like it should be impossible, and yet some people have done it. However, while luck certainly plays the biggest role, there are some strategies that might marginally improve your chances of survival if, for any reason, you find yourself about to go over Niagara Falls. These strategies won't guarantee survival. Nothing can do that. But they might shift the odds slightly in your favor. Survival strategies. What to do. If you find yourself hurtling 109 kilometers per hour in freezing cold water toward the edge of a 57-meter drop, here's what you need to do to maximize your slim chances of survival. First, and most importantly, take a really deep breath just before you go over the edge. This is absolutely critical. When you hit the water at the bottom, there will be an enormous amount of water swirling violently around you in all directions. The water falling from above creates turbulence, whirlpools, and powerful currents that will drag you under and toss you around like you're in a washing machine. Not to mention the intense pressure of millions of liters of water falling from 57 meters above and continuously crashing down on the area where you land. You can easily suffocate or drown in these conditions, even if you survive the initial impact. Taking a big gulp of air before your fall could buy you precious extra seconds underwater. Enough time to potentially get pulled away from the most dangerous area directly under the falls and into slightly calmer water where you can surface. Second, you need to protect your head. Head injuries are one of the most common causes of death for people who go over falls. You could strike your head on the water itself during impact, or on rocks beneath the surface, or on debris in the water. If you can, try to orient yourself so that you fall feet first, rather than head first. This is difficult to control when you're being swept along by powerful currents, but if you have any ability to position yourself, feet first is crucial. Wrap your arms around your head with your elbows positioned over your nose and face. This creates a protective cage for your skull and face. Clench your eyes shut as tightly as possible. The impact with the water can cause eye injuries. Clench your mouth shut too. You don't want water forced into your lungs on impact. In fact, you should tense up all your muscles throughout your body. Bring your legs tightly together. Make your body as rigid and compact as possible. Think of it like making your body watertight. You're trying to prevent water from being forced into your body cavities during the violent impact. This tensed position might also help protect your internal organs from the shock of impact. Your muscles can provide a small amount of cushioning for your vital organs. These strategies sound simple, but they're extremely difficult to execute when you're in a life or death situation, being swept along by overwhelming forces of nature, probably panicking and having only seconds to react. After the fall, hypothermia and chaos. Let's say you did everything right and you somehow survived the 57-meter fall and the impact with the churning water at the base. You took a deep breath, protected your head, and hit the water feet first. Congratulations. You're already incredibly lucky to be alive at this point. But your ordeal is far from over. The water temperature below Niagara Falls is around the freezing mark year-round, typically between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius. This is dangerously cold water that will rapidly drain your body heat. At these temperatures, you have approximately 15 minutes before severe hypothermia begins to set in. Hypothermia will make your muscles weak and uncoordinated. It will make it difficult to swim, it will cloud your thinking and make it harder to make good decisions. Eventually, it will cause you to lose consciousness and drown. So you have a very limited window of time to get out of the water and to safety. But getting out isn't simple. You'll likely be badly bruised from the impact and the tumbling you experienced underwater. You might have broken bones. You'll certainly be disoriented and probably in shock from the trauma of what just happened. The currents below the falls are still quite strong, and they'll be pulling you in various directions. There are rocks beneath the surface that you could hit as you're swept along. There's debris in the water. Tree branches, human trash, who knows what else, that could injure you or entangle you. If you can manage to stay calm and focused despite all of this, despite the pain, the cold, the disorientation, and the ongoing danger, you might be able to swim or float toward the shore or toward one of the tour boats that operate in the area. Rescuers on the tour boats are trained to pull people from the water and can get you to medical help quickly, but you need to survive long enough for them to reach you. And you need to be conscious and capable of either swimming toward them or at least staying afloat until they can get to you. The best way to survive: don't go over. Of course, the absolute best way to survive Niagara Falls is to not go over it in the first place. This might sound obvious, but it needs to be emphasized. Pay attention to the warning signs. There are numerous signs throughout the area warning visitors to stay behind the safety barriers. These signs exist for a reason. The currents in the Niagara River above the falls are much stronger than they appear, and people have been swept away after getting too close to the edge. Respect the safety rails and barriers. They're positioned at distances that safety experts have determined are safe. Don't climb over them for a better view or a better photo. Don't lean too far over them, and certainly don't go around them to get closer to the water. The falls are huge and impressive from the designated viewing areas. You really don't need to risk your life to get a closer look. The view from safety is spectacular enough. If you do somehow find yourself in the water above the falls and being swept toward the edge, try to grab onto anything solid: rocks, trees, debris, anything. The current is incredibly strong, but if you can catch hold of something and hold on, rescue workers may be able to reach you before you go over. But realistically, once you're in the water and being swept toward the falls, your chances of avoiding going over are very small. The current is simply too powerful. Conclusion: respect the falls. So what would happen if you fell into Niagara Falls? Most likely you'd die. The 57-meter fall, the impact, the rocks, the violent underwater currents, the continuous crashing water from above, the cold temperature. These forces combine to make survival extremely unlikely. A few people have survived through a combination of luck, quick thinking, and favorable circumstances, but they are the rare exceptions. Most people who go over Niagara Falls don't make it. The falls are a spectacular natural wonder that deserve respect and admiration from a safe distance. They're not a challenge to be conquered or a background for risky photos. They're a powerful reminder of nature's forces and our own fragility. Visit Niagara Falls. Enjoy the view. Take photos from behind the safety barriers. But remember that no photo, no thrill, no dare is worth the risk of going over those falls. If you enjoyed this exploration of one of nature's most dangerous attractions, subscribe for more investigations into extreme scenarios and survival situations. Stay curious, stay safe, and stay behind the barriers.